You're listening to Let's Talk a Little Shop with me, Stephanie Baringhaley, your professional podcasting resource for staying on trend and connecting you to the news that matters in the retail world. Let's talk a little shop. Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk a Little Shop. I'm your host, Stephanie Baringhaley, and joining me today is not just the co-president of Kole Imports and Closeouts, but also a good friend and just an overall awesome human being. Please welcome Danny Kole.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. You've got me blushing with those giant accolades to start the call. I appreciate that.
We have to go big, Danny. I mean,
I expect nothing less of you, so I appreciate that.
So for all of our listeners, I did give Danny a really hard time because usually when I see him and his beautiful team at all of our events, they have these amazing, vibrant colored shirts. And today he decided, the one day that I was going to match him with orange, he decided to wear black. So Danny, I'm coming for you.
All right, well, I didn't want to take away from your amazing colors. So I decided to go very subtle today. So today it's all about you and the colors.
Considerate. It's a day about you. And we're going to dive into it. So for our listeners, I think what I want to start with is you've got an incredible story. And the story includes probably about a high school kid who had a dream and just decided to do it. So why don't you walk us through the story of Danny Kole and how Kole Imports and Closeouts came to be?
Okay. Well, yeah, I appreciate that. It is a story that we're certainly very proud of. It's not only my story. It's a story that started with my brother and I. My brother Rob, who's a little bit older than I am, a few years older, but I was in high school. I was actually 14 when things started. And where we started was selling at the swap meets. Our business was down in San Diego. And it was at a time where we basically would sell a little bit of everything. It was just swap meets back then were not what they are now. Swap meets now are full of all kinds of new merchandise. Swap meets back then used to be basically everybody's private garage sale. Okay. So people would pack all their junk in their car and they would bring it to the swap meet and they tried to sell it. What we would do was people used to have to line up 3 or 4 hours before you could get in to get a good spot. So when people would pull their car in, so let's just say Stephanie pulls her car in, you pulled your car in, you think you're going to be in line for 3 or 4 hours. We would come knock on your window and we'd say, hi, do you want to show us what you have that you want to sell? We'll buy it now.
Oh.
And you'd look at us like we were a little crazy. And then you might, open up the back of your car and we'd say, oh, how much do you want for that? How much do you want for that? And we would buy a couple things from you. And we would try to buy enough that you didn't have very much left. So that whatever was left, we would say, if you want X price for the rest of it, we'll take it all and you can just go home now.
Oh.
And it was a strategy that worked pretty well because people would look and they only had a few things left and it was 4 a.m. and they'd rather go home and sit there for another 3 hours. So we used to repeat this process more or less every Friday and Saturday night. And then we would pull into the swap meet and we would buy what we sold. And that was really at the very, very infancy of what we did. Then it turned into starting to sell new merchandise. Okay. And it was all promotional type merchandise. And this is back like in 1980. So I know I'm really aging myself when I say that, but that's the truth. So in 1980, as a country, we weren't the crazy consumer nation that we are now. So it wasn't like you could walk into Walmarts everywhere, Targets everywhere. So when we started selling new merchandise back then, there were things that were like promotional, like socket sets. And it was, you could have probably gone around in the mid to late 80s and almost every person had one of these socket sets in their garage because it cost $5 for, a bunch of sockets and a ratchet. And that's really where our business started to evolve, is when we figured out that we could buy new merchandise. And we would drive up to LA and we found wholesalers similar to what we are now. Okay. And instead of having to be on this hunt every Friday and Saturday night to figure out, can we find stuff to buy and sell, we were able to buy it in advance and buy enough of it that we could go to the swap meet and start selling the merchandise that we had bought earlier in the week. So it was socket sets, it was bench vices, it was floor jacks, it was all tools, which is extremely ironic because I'm probably the least handy person.
But everyone needs it. Everyone needs a tool. So
Everyone needs it, but I'm tool challenged. When I hang up a picture in my house, it's a major accomplishment when I can have it nailed to the wall. But at that point, the business started growing, and the story we like to joke about is our first warehouse when we were starting our business was the bathroom of our mother and father's sandwich shop.
oh,
Literally a bathroom size is where we stored everything that we didn't sell for that weekend.
cozy.
Now we're in a 200,000 square foot warehouse. That's kind of a good snapshot of where we started and where we've come to. And our business evolved a lot over the years. It did start in tools and automotive, and then it moved into pretty much anything that was a good promotional item. So whether that was a picture frame, whether it was pet items, anything we thought that was a good deal, we would be willing to buy and try to sell it. And then we got to a point where, if I'm jumping ahead too much, feel free to stop me.
No, you're good.
As our business evolved, we started going to trade shows. We started going to the ASD trade show. There were a couple other shows we went to, and we had all kinds of merchandise. It was a little bit of everything. It was a booth that was a mishmash. There might be socket sets. There might be kitchen items. There literally might be machetes. It was just a weird mix of merchandise. And then we heard about a concept called the dollar store.
Oh, yes.
And people kept coming over and saying, do you have stuff for dollar stores? And we didn't really understand what it was. Nobody did because it was so new. And so then what we did was we went to the people we were buying from, and maybe we were selling 10 screwdrivers on a card. Mm-hmm. We said to them, how much would it cost just to put 2 screwdrivers on a card? So maybe they said 40 cents. We said, okay, well, if we buy it for 40, we can sell it for 55. People can sell it for $1. So we created 30 items that could sell for $1 retail. And we went to the next ASD show. This is a long time ago. And we put up a little paper sign that said 99-cent store items.
Brilliant.
And it was really like, I always say it was kind of like the Kevin Costner Field of Dreams moment, build it and they will come during the baseball movie.
Oh, yeah.
We put up this sign and it was like a sea of people coming over to our booth. What do you have? And I think it was like halfway through the second day of the show, we had literally sold out everything we had. And my brother and I looked at each other and we were like, this is something unbelievable. Yeah. And we made the decision, which was a risky, gutsy, ended up being a lucky, right decision, to basically take everything we were selling and change our entire product line into items that could sell for 99 cents.
Wow. And
we flew over to Hong Kong and we met with factories and we created, and I don't mean like we created something that didn't exist, not like a new product. What we did is we took products and changed them to be able to be sold for 99-cent retail. And 4 months later, we had probably 200 items that could sell for 99 cents. And we traded in our gross paper sign for like a real banner. And we put up a sign that said, largest variety of 99-cent store merchandise. And our business really exploded. And there was a 10-year growth like this. And it was a great, great run. We were at the forefront of something that no one knew it was going to become really a part of the fabric of not only the US, but pretty much every country now has a format of a dollar store. And we were really at the front of it. And so when people would come walk around a show, we were there and our booth kept growing from 2 booths to 4 booths to 8 booths. And as it was growing, literally everything in our booth could be retailed for 99 cents. And people would
Amazing.
be amazed because it was just so many items. And we kept adding categories so that we would have more and more available. So, that's where our business really grew. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, the dollar store phenomenon started tailing off a little bit. It still exists, but it's changed. Most dollar stores are dollar and up now.
Yep.
And so we changed again. We pivoted again. And we made the decision that we saw the writing was on the wall, that the
Mhm.
category and the kind of the craziness was wearing off for a few reasons. And we started changing our product line again. So we still have items that can sell for a dollar retail.
Got it.
It's not always in a dollar store. You can go into a Target and they may have some items that sell for a
Oh,
dollar.
it's our favorite section at Target.
Exactly
I go
right.
with my family and we pick up everything that we don't need, but it's seasonal, it's fun, the kids like it. So yeah,
Right.
we're
And I'm
always
sure you noticed it's right when you walk in the store. Because even though the concept has mellowed out a bit, it's still a magic number. A dollar is, you don't have to really think about it. It's like, okay, the kid wants it. Okay, she gets one, he gets one. You don't have to think about it so much.
Yep.
So we've evolved in our business as now probably 25% of our items can sell for a dollar retail.
Okay.
And our real, bread and butter is $20 retail and under, using the same formula we've always used, which is if something's a good deal,
Hmm.
if it's not too far off the beaten path in terms of usability, if it's something that most people don't know what it is, we're not going to sell it.
Yeah.
If it's something that's recognizable, that people know what that item is, if we can buy it and sell it to our customers where they can sell it at a good price, that's kind of the formula that works. It's not
It's your
magic.
sweet spot. That's totally your sweet spot.
That's our sweet spot.
So I have to stop
Um,
you because
yeah,
for your parents who had the sandwich shop who said, "Hey, you can use our restroom and you can fill it with things." I mean, that's pretty amazing that they saw potential in your business model. You were only in high school at the time. So tell me a little bit more about that dynamic. How did you and your brother, like, how did you guys convince them that this was something that you could profit and expand outward? What was that like?
yeah, it's a great question. It's because I look back on it, I'm like, when you're 15 years old, no one should really be trusting you to do anything other than do your
Right.
homework. And even that, you're probably not going to do. So we grew up with a father who had a one man business. We grew up in New York, and my dad was had a one man business where he sold food to diners and restaurants. We definitely learned and watched hard work our whole lives.
Mhm.
Our dad was most days up at 3 or 4 in the morning, driving to the wholesale meat district downtown New York, then driving out to the suburbs and delivering to restaurants. I'm the youngest of 4, so I experienced that the least of all of my siblings. But my 2 older brothers experienced it a lot, where they would go with him in the summers and they would work with him. And even though I didn't do it as much, I definitely did it enough that I learned hard work. I learned the value of building relationships
Mhm.
and really treating your customers like your partners versus someone that you just want to make money on.
Yeah.
Because I think that partnership where we watched our dad interact with his customers, he wasn't just a guy delivering stuff, he was a part of what they did. And so we learned that. Getting our parents convinced, it almost didn't really happen that way.
Okay.
Getting to use the bathroom as our warehouse was easy. That was like, can we put some stuff in there? Sure, no problem. But there was a moment where the business had shown enough promise that our parents sold their sandwich shop and joined the business.
Oh, amazing.
So, I don't know that we convinced them as much as they saw what was happening. We worked really hard. We still work really hard. But at the beginning, of any business, you work crazy hard if you want to succeed. And we did that. And I think they saw very quickly, that we went from, we really went from selling at one swap meet to very quickly being at one swap meet, but having three different locations within that swap meet. So you could really call that an example of how a giant shopping mall might have three Foot Lockers in it
Yeah.
because the malls are so big. These swap meets were so big that we would have two or three spots within one swap meet. But then what we did was we had multiple spots in every swap meet in San Diego. We have a lot of people that have been with us a really long time. Our name may be on the building, but it takes a lot of people to do what we do. And we have, literally probably 20 people or more that have been with us 20 years or more.
Long time.
We've got people that have been with us 30 years or more. We have people that have been with us literally since day one, which is 37 or 38 years now. So I think it is a big part of what we do. And back to what you said about my parents, we definitely learned how to treat people, not just employees, not just customers. I think people in general. We definitely learned the value of good relationships and treating people fairly. And I think, the reason people are with us so long is they are treated fairly and they feel like they're a part of something. I never say someone works for me. I don't like the phrase. If a salesperson ever introduces me as their boss, it only happens once. I don't even like the word. We work together. And so that's how I introduce myself and how I prefer to be introduced versus this is who I work for, because that's not the mentality we look for in people.
Well, you have a family. It's so interesting. I don't know if you remember this, but years back, we went bowling with your team. It was the ASD team, and then it was the Kole team. And you could see it. You had so many people that they were smiling and they felt like they were part of the Kole family. And for ASD, we were like, Kole Imports is part of our family too. So I think your parents did a very good job of instilling that in you and your brother, because you invest in people. And that is something that I don't think is very common these days, that it goes a long way. So kudos to your parents for instilling that into both of you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I do remember the bowling night, mostly because we won.
I don't know about that.
But, I think to your point, I think we definitely do invest in people. But I think the other big word that I would use is we really try to empower people.
Yeah.
We basically, every salesperson that works with us has heard that their desk should be thought of as kind of like, it's their company working within our company.
Love that.
So, if they run it as their business, they're going to be more motivated. If they run it as I work for this person, it's hard to get as motivated. Mm-hmm. And certainly if you're talking about salespeople in general, there's a financial motivation to run your own business. But we really try to do that exact same thing with every person that works here. If I was to walk around outside in our offices right now, there's probably a dozen cubicles. We have a young lady by the name of Rachel that works with us. She's been with us 35 years. I see it every time I go into her office. She has a picture of our building in her office.
Aww.
And instead of Kole Imports, it says Rachel's Imports. And, and there's other people that have that same thing, because we've said that over and over again. Think of it as your own business. And if something's going well, great. If something can be done better, take it personally and think, how can we improve that? So we do invest in people, but I think we've done a really good job also empowering people.
And that speaks of your leadership, right? So how would you define your leadership from previous to now, and how that's had to change, because the world has changed, right? So give us the scoop on Danny Kole, the leader.
That's been a real evolution for me as a person. Mm-hmm. So, when we started, in many cases, I was hiring people that were 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
When I was 18 and 19, when you hire someone who's 40, who's a salesperson, who's been doing it a long time, as a leader, you've got to think about how do you present yourself in a way where they're not thinking this young kid doesn't know what he's talking about. So that was something that I had to learn over time. I think you get better at anything the more you do it.
Of course.
So I think as a leader, I've gotten better at it. I take a lot of pride. I think I'm a good motivator. I think by nature, I'm very positive. Um, my friends like to joke that I find the positive in Charles Manson, um, but I think that serves me well. I think looking for the positive in things is certainly better than looking at glass half empty. I'm
Mhm.
definitely a glass half full person. Um, you know, I know you and I spoke about this before. I spent a lot of time coaching youth sports for all my kids as they were growing up, and to me, it's not all that different. When I speak to people here, my constant comment is not everything I say is going to resonate with you,
Yep.
but you should be willing to hear the parts that do make you better. If you are, to use, I'm a huge sports fan. I always use sports analogies, but
Mhm.
if you're a hitter in baseball, the reason there's a hitting coach is because even the best hitters can tweak things a little bit. So a lot of what I've learned over the years is I've had to come at people from the place of not what you're doing wrong, but
Mhm.
here's what you can do a little differently, not even better. Because when you say to someone, you can do this better,
It turns them off.
they're hearing that they're doing it wrong, right? So I've learned to use words differently. I've learned to write my emails in a way that always end on a positive note so that hopefully their takeaway is something positive.
Your famous
Um,
quotes, right? Every email that you have has a quote at the end. What is your current quote right now?
I mix them up all the time. It could be never, never, never give up. It's all things that I think are good reminders. There's always room to improve, I believe, is the
Mhm.
one that's there now. And in that comment, I'm speaking to myself
Yeah.
and I'm speaking to anybody that reads it. And I think anybody that's not willing to read that and say there is room to improve is probably someone that's, I don't want to say uncoachable, but that's going to be a tough person to coach.
Yep.
So you've got to be willing, you have to have a person who's willing to hear you and say, I can improve. And I've learned over the years, there's some people that are, I don't want to say uncoachable, but it's really tough to coach them.
Of
And
course.
I tend to use my energy on the ones that I can help versus the ones that don't want to be helped as much.
I love that. And I think it goes into two of you're really good at looking into yourself and then taking that extra care of saying, I'm talking to this individual and my words matter and my actions matter. And so if I want to be the leader of this large company that is subject to shifting because the industry is always changing and there's highs and there's lows, they're taking a hard look at you to say, okay, what's his temperament and how do I be the best associate that I can, right? So I think that's a testament. Everything that you do is done with consideration, and that's great to see in the business like this.
I kind of feel like, the audience is always watching, the audience
Mhm.
is always listening, so the way I carry myself, whether that be how early I start my day
Yeah.
or how quickly I answer a text that's important at off hours, or, you know, not wanting to walk off the show floor until almost everybody else has left the show floor because you know what? We invested a lot of time and energy to be there. I don't need to necessarily run out of the building to get back to my hotel. I'd rather stand in the booth a little bit longer and maybe
Yeah.
one more person walks by that I have a good conversation with. And I think the people that work with us continue to notice that. And, my biggest hope is that rubs off on them in all areas of their life. As I said, I was lucky enough to have parents that were great role models.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that. And I'm not trying to be a parent to people that work for us, but I think if you can be a good example, you know, you're a great example of incredible energy. You're always positive. You're always energetic.
Oh,
That's a
thank
great
you.
thing, right? Now, you gave me a compliment to start. That's a
Thank
great
you.
thing. But that's a great thing to show people. I'm sure your coworkers feed off of that, right? So you're not trying to be a parent. You're just showing them that, hey, good energy and positivity is going to be a good thing for you. So that's really where I try to come from with my actions.
And something that you and I had spoken about this not too long ago. We were talking about grit, building grit. And I told you that I was going to be a horrible mother and send both my kids to camp for the first time where there's no electronics. And I said, I want you to scrape your knee and have paint on you and like dirt in your hair because I need them to know that they can problem solve. They can push past like their tiredness and that they could have a really good time and, as you say, like empower themselves. So you've been around for 38 years in your business. That takes a lot of grit. You had to do it when you were a teenager and kind of go through all of that. As a leader, how does that look for your team? All these challenges and stuff, how do you empower them, but also say that I need you to have some grit so that we can have longevity?
Another sports analogy that you always hear is you can't teach heart.
True.
You can have the greatest player in the world, but you can't teach heart. And all of my siblings are definitely, attitude reflects leadership. The leadership we grew up with was hardworking parents. My two brothers, my sister, all of us are really hard workers. And we all definitely have grit. I went from starting this business in high school directly into business, never went to college. And I live in a community that everybody likes to, at parties, talk about where they went to college.
Where they partied.
Right. And I used to actually be very insecure about it. I'd go to parties and it was kind of a weird feeling because I live in a community that a lot of people went to really good schools. So at one party, someone said, "Where'd you go to school?" I said, "I went to SMU.
Oh.
And they said, "Oh, in Texas." I said, "No, in San Diego, Swap Meet University." And to me, the swap meet was all about grit because we had to get there at 4 a.m. and we literally had to sleep in the back of our van on top of boxes. That's where we slept when we finally could get an hour or two of sleep after we bought things. We used to drive up to Los Angeles to buy stuff and we'd leave at 3 a.m. And that grit is something that is, in my opinion, really ingrained in me now. It's really no different how I'd say I live all aspects of my life. It's how I work. It's how I play. It's really how I do everything. I don't do anything from a perspective of like, yeah, I'll just kind of do this. Sporting events that I'm involved in, I'm going to work hard to be as good as I can be. I'm not going to just show up and be like, "Oh, I lost. That's okay." Right? I'm okay if I lose, but I want to work hard and feel like I put my best foot forward. All we can do in running our company and leading our company is be the best example that we can be.
And you have it where it's not just you and your brother anymore, right? You've got other family that's really taking on key roles in the company. So that's got to make you feel good. But at the same time, do you have advice or how does that look, having family now taking on the next or the future of Kole Imports and Closeouts?
It's great. And it's not without challenges, because it's, when Rob and I started this company, my brother Rob and I started this company, every ounce of energy, blood, sweat went into building the business in every way we had to do it. Whether it was, it was plane flights all the time. It was working late at night all the time, up dark and early all the time. So the good fortune of the next generation is they didn't have to do that.
That's right.
That's the good news. The bad news is they didn't have to do that. So, what they've all heard when they've started working with us, and I'm happy to say, I don't think there's a person in our company that would say they don't work, that every new generation of Koles doesn't wear the Kole name and take it seriously. And they all heard that when they started because they needed to hear, whether they realized it or not, everyone was going to be watching them. Rob and I took it seriously enough that we needed to make sure they 100% knew it. And the good news is at this point, there's 4 in the next generation, 3 of my nephews and 1 of my sons. So all of them are constantly trying to come up with new ideas. How can we do better? new ideas and ways to continue to keep morale at a good point. We're a little bit of a hybrid company now in terms of our workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And when we all worked together every day for 35 years, it was easy to keep morale really high because we were all here joking around. With people not all here, that's a challenge. So they've been able to rise to the occasion there and leave their mark there. So, overall, it's been a good experience for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we've really focused on making it a good experience. We continue to make sure that if something's not being done the way that we think it makes sense to do it, they hear it. I want them to scrape their knees, use your analogy, because they've got to make their mistakes. But when they make a mistake that was avoidable,
mm-hmm.
we explain it, right? If they make a mistake that is just, look, I make plenty of mistakes, right? Some are avoidable, some aren't. The ones that aren't avoidable, they learn from it, they scrape their knee and they put their Band-Aid on and they get back to work. The ones that are avoidable, we try to make it a teaching moment and help them continue to get better. Because again, Rob and I have 38 years experience now. Rob's oldest son has been with us now, I believe, about 12 years, his next son about 10 years, and then his next son about 5 years, and my son about 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
3, 4, 5 years, you're just really starting to fully get it. So they continue to have teaching moments, and thankfully they're willing to hear what they need to hear. And, for us, as you said, it's a great feeling. I know that my parents are looking down or would be thrilled to know there's another generation. And, I know they'd be proud of the job that they're all doing. And that's really the biggest thing that I could ask for.
Well, I think the group is in good hands because, like you said, the experience is all going to keep adding, but correcting it and having those conversations to say, okay, how do we avoid it? Or what was the learning moment? And it's okay to fail, or it's okay to have a situation as long as we grow from it. And I think that puts your company in great hands for the future. So I want to wrap it up. I want to dig into ASD Market Week real quick because, like I said, you guys are family to us. You've got an amazing booth, the most cheerful, happy salespeople that greet you in these great professional shirts. So what's trending, or what can buyers expect, especially buyers who have never maybe purchased from you? What can they expect in August in Las Vegas?
Yeah, so you can expect bright shirts. I will promise you that. Again, I'm sorry to disappoint you wearing black today. But we take a lot of pride in the fact that we do everything in our booth to really stand out. Everything from how we set up our booth, to our banners, to what everybody's wearing, to the giveaways we do in our booth. And again, just to give a quick shout out to ASD, because really we've been doing the show for 36 years.
Long time.
And we started with one booth, and we have 38 booths now at the ASD show. And ASD is really to us no different than it is with our customers. We think of you guys as our partners, not someone that provides like a service for us. And I think you know that from all the conversations we've had over the years. And the great news is I know you think the same about us.
Of
which
course.
is why it's been such a good working relationship. So in terms of what people can expect, from a Kole Imports standpoint, we went from about 6 years ago being 99% imports, 1% closeouts. We're now 50% closeouts, 50% imports.
Which is huge. So just so you know, Danny, everyone who's calling in, closeouts. Do you have closeouts? How much? And where should I start? So yes, so mark Kole Imports and closeouts onto your list to come to, because 50% is a huge number. That's a great number.
Yeah, and that's been a fantastic shift for us in our business, because not only do we have our continuity items that customers like, but the closeouts are what really create the excitement. So to your question, that's a great segue of what people can expect. Our closeout buying is at an all-time high. We've received more in the last 60 days in closeouts.
Okay.
And that's going to continue for the next 30 days as we're heading into Vegas. than we had received over the previous 6 months. And it's really that we are buying deals aggressively, gearing up for ASD, because we recognize that it's a show that people come to buy. They don't come to look around. They don't, certainly some people do, but in general, it's a buying show where people make decisions. We've got some new categories we've added. We're really excited about. We continue to add to what we do. A year ago, we never did anything in apparel. We currently have some massive apparel deals that we're going to have at the show that we're super excited about.
Good to know.
Again, same formula as before. We're going to have, tennis shoes that are going to be able to retail for $10 that can be found at $29 in other stores. And that's our formula. So do we sell tennis shoes normally? No. If we could sell tennis shoes for $5 or $6 that can retail for $10 that are going to create excitement in people's stores, we're going to do it. So that's one of probably a dozen big apparel deals we're going to have. But really, we're trying to expand our categories across the board. Our inventory is at an all-time high.
Okay.
You see no stress in my face when I say that. It's by design. We have loaded up on merchandise because we realize if we have the right deals, people are going to be there and are going to make decisions on the spot. So bright colors, great deals, and a few surprises as well.
Do we get to have a hat? Is there going to be a hat?
You got to move that label.
Oh, wait, let's see. There it is.
That looks much better.
And you know what I love about this? Your little tag that was on here, it says, take a group pic and tag. And that's such a good thing. So if any company has a cool giveaway, they can do something and then tag their social. But you keep it fun. You keep it interesting. I love a good hat.
And you know what? And you wear it well. You look great in it. And you know what? This is, 38 years, if it wasn't still fun, we wouldn't be doing it.
You have to have fun.
We're doing it as well. We're doing it as well as we are because we really are passionate and we enjoy what we do. So to anybody else doing whatever you're doing, make sure you're having fun.
That's right. And Danny, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I can't wait to see you in Vegas. And for anyone who has never had the experience of shopping Kole Imports, you have to go because that's 36 years of experience just on the trade show floor where they can guide you to make the right purchases for your store and answer questions that maybe you don't know or you're just not certain about the market. So make sure you see them. And then Danny, I'll see you in Vegas soon. But thank you so much for joining today.
You got it. Thank you, Stephanie. Always good to see you.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk a Little Shop. For more episodes, be sure to subscribe to this podcast in iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, or Spotify. And you can help us grow our reach by simply giving us a like, share with friends, comment, and of course, we love positive ratings. Till next time, stay on trend.